So let's start off with the elephant in the room, and that's Lisandro Martinez. After going back through some clips from this season, I've come to the conclusion that Martinez is the biggest issue that United have in the starting 11 right now. Not Rashford, Garnacho, Bruno or Dalot, who everyone likes to point to, but Lisandro Martinez. And in this video I'm going to break down the issues from the Tottenham game, and then I'll analyse Martinez's laundry list of errors from this season to show you that my conclusion hasn't been drawn solely from this game. For the opening goal of the game, I mean every one of the United players probably needs to share the blame, as they all react far too slowly, but Martinez reacts the slowest of the lot, once again not having the awareness of his surroundings, and showing that he needs someone like De Ligt who can command the back line, as I just don't think he's got those qualities. Now Bayindir is mostly at fault obviously, he has to parry it wider, as even though the shot does get a slight deflection on it, it's coming from a long way out, and Euro I guess you could also pin some blame on, but for me I put it down to the keeper. However, the second goal is certainly on Martinez, and as you're going to see throughout my analysis of him, his lack of ability to move his feet quickly is a consistent theme. So Tottenham shift the ball out to Son on the left side, and I really like Maddison's movement here, as he recognises that because Euro is so close to Mazraoui, that underlapping run in behind Mazraoui isn't really viable, and so he pulls out and arcs a run around Son, providing an overlapping run rather than an underlap. However, this is the issue with constantly wanting to sign young players with huge potential, and that's that there is going to be a gap between their potential ability and their current ability, and I think that's what we are seeing with Euro. I don't want to criticise him too much, as if you watched him for Lille last season, you'd understand that whilst he without doubt has the potential to be an elite level centre back, he does have a mistake in him, as we saw against Nottingham Forest for Chris Wood's goal, and we see this here. But before I carry on with the analysis, if you want to check out any of the current season jerseys, go over to Jersey FIFA. They've also got a variety of different club and international retro shirts as well. You can use code Atlantis at checkout for a discount. A link will be in my Instagram bio, which I will leave linked in the description. So in this situation, I get that United want to push out and hold a high line, but in this sort of situation, I think we can see the lack of experience from Euro, as I think he has to drop off to get himself into a position so that when Son does feed that pass down the outside of Mazraoui, which is clearly going to come, he's in a position to come across and stop Maddison being able to put a ball across the box. He doesn't drop off and holds his position, which allows Son to release Maddison into this crossing position inside of the box. But in the centre, you can see that Martinez is actually fairly well positioned, having an eye on Solanke's movement, but also covering the space between Evans and Dalot, which is a massive advantage of using a back 5 rather than a back 4. As in a 4, if Euro had come across as a right-sided centre-back over to that side to help Mazraoui against Son and Maddison, now United would only have 2 defenders in the centre and would be reliant on someone from the midfield line to be able to read the play and drop back to help either Mazraoui against Son and Maddison, or to provide cover in the centre, which obviously isn't needed with the extra man in the back line. But Maddison gets into this position and he puts in a dangerous cross to the edge of the 6-yard box, but Martinez just doesn't shift his feet quick enough. He's slightly off balance, and rather than going for the clearance with his right foot, he dangles his left foot out. It settles up perfectly for Kulusevski to finish first time and give Tottenham a 2-0 lead. Now for Solanke's second goal and Tottenham's third, we see Tottenham have possession in the middle third, and you can clearly see United's defensive setup with the pentagon shape in front of the back 5, and as the ball gets played out to Jed Spence on this left side, now United's backline is going to attempt to squeeze up towards the halfway line. Now the risk is that with this type of high line it is going to leave space in behind, but the reward is firstly that by having your defenders actively pushing forward, if done right, you then should be able to catch the opposition's forward line runners offside more often throughout a whole game, while simultaneously reducing the space between the lines for the opposition to work in by reducing the space between your defensive and your midfield line. Now I do have a video on my Patreon where I specifically talk about the offside trap, as well as another on how to actually beat the offside trap, so if you do want to see more details you can sign up for $1.50 a month. I've also got my in-game Instagram group chat which you can join as well. I'll leave it linked in all the usual places. But in regards to Martinez, the fundamentals of using a high line and an offside trap, which is what Amorim wants to do, is that you need defenders, specifically centre-backs, who not only have the recovery pace to turn and race back in order to get goal side if the ball does go over their heads, but before that you need your centre-backs to be aware of their positioning in relation to other players in the defensive line. And in this example, Martinez gets the latter wrong. It should be pretty simple for him to see that with Euro and Evans sitting higher than him to his right side, he is the one keeping Solanke onside, and he simply needs to just take a step forward as Jed Spence is shaping up to play the pass in behind. Now this certainly is a mistake, but it's one that you'd imagine could be fixed by more repetition in pushing up and using offside traps on the training ground, but it's Martinez is defending a few seconds later which worries me more. If this is Son instead of Solanke, I think he probably gets across Martinez and into a 1v1 position, but Martinez is actually able to recover, and in this situation here, there's no way Solanke should be getting a shot away with his right foot. Martinez has to show him down the outside, even if it means Solanke gets a shot away from a tighter angle with his left. But instead Solanke shifts the ball to his right, and Martinez yet again, which I've noticed throughout his game, and in a lot of the mistakes he's made this season, is just too slow to react. He's flat-footed and provides minimal resistance to Solanke cutting inside. Evans I wouldn't say is at fault, but he doesn't get out to Solanke quick enough, as I think De Ligt probably would, and the Englishman rifles the strike past Bayindir, giving Tottenham a 3-0 lead. So I'm constantly hearing how Dalot is a defensive liability, when in reality Lisandro Martinez has been far worse defensively than Dalot has this season, and it's not even down to a lack of aerial ability, which is an issue in itself as we saw against Forest, as there's multiple times this season where he completely switches off inside of the box, and it just looks like he doesn't have the defensive instincts of a top level centre-back. It happened against Brighton at the start of the season, where when the ball went over his head, he just seemed to completely ignore Welbeck's presence right next to him in the 6-yard box. Against Nottingham Forest, he didn't react in time to clear the ball off the line, and against Porto in the Europa League, after the cross went over his head, he just gets caught ball watching and allows Pepe to get goal side and head the ball into an empty net. And then for Porto's third goal, he gets his positioning wrong. He doesn't drop off and read the pass in behind him down the side, because for some reason he steps up onto De Ligt's man, and then in the 1v1 battle against Pepe in space, despite Pepe not exactly being rapid or an elite level 1v1 dribbler, he gets beaten far too easily and allows a cross to go into the box from where Amaldion scores from. Against Fenerbahce in the first half, he gets drawn out wide, and then when the ball goes past him, he doesn't have the recovery pace to get goal side initially, and then when he does get goal side inside of the box, he completely sells himself by diving in, allowing Samuel to cut back inside onto his left foot. And then for Fenerbahce's goal in the second half, when he gets moved to left back, despite Lindelof having zero awareness and mostly being at fault for this goal, Martinez doesn't cover himself in glory once again, as he allows a forward to get goal side of him, and despite not having a player on his outside, he doesn't do enough to get narrow within Nasiri and stop him getting across him, allowing the striker to get into the position to head the ball past Onana. Against Liverpool at the start of the season, Salah has a ball on the corner of the box, and Martinez doesn't get his body positioning right. He's about a yard or two too far forward, and it's like his boots are stuck in the ground, as he isn't quick enough to react when the ball goes across to Diaz, who sweeps the ball first time into the net. Also in the game against Brighton, the pass goes into Welbeck, he lays it off for João Pedro, and Martinez comes steaming out of the back line, doesn't slow down and compose himself, and Pedro just brushes him aside and drives past him, taking him completely out of the game. Against FC Twente, he pushes out of the back line once again, which is fine, but then he turns like he's stuck in mud, and the FC Twente player just races through him and Eriksson, showing United's lack of athleticism and physicality, which then leads to the goal being conceded. Against Tottenham, whilst Dalot was certainly at fault for the first goal, just completely losing Brennan Johnson at the back post, for the second goal, Solanke heads the ball on, and the ball doesn't have much pace on it, but rather than just adjusting his feet in order to make the interception, Martinez just flings himself at the ball, completely misses it, which leaves the whole of United's left side completely open for Tottenham to drive into, and then he hasn't got the recovery pace to get back, and he ends up outside of the box as the ball goes into Kulusevski, who knocks the ball past Onana into the net. Against Manchester City in the Charity Shield match, the pass goes into Oscar Bob inside of the box, and once again Martinez gets caught flat-footed, and he's turned with ease, leading to the cross from where Bernardo Silva scores. Against Everton, Dwight McNeil receives the ball between the lines, and he's able to split Martinez and De Ligt with a through ball, and whilst De Ligt probably should do better, Martinez doesn't do much better than Maguire or Johnny Evans would in this situation, not having the turning pace or the acceleration to make a recovery and get back across Beto, and it almost leads to a goal. And all of those examples are just from this season, and he was out all of last season, so that's basically a third of his time at United. I mean, Dalot hasn't made as many big defensive errors as Martinez has this season, but he receives far more criticism. And I'm not joking, but if you're being objective and not thinking from a Manchester United fan's point of view, I think the only thing that Martinez has on even a centre-back like Branthwaite is his passing ability. He's not better at playing in a high line, being far slower and having far slower turning pace. He isn't better when defending space or in 1v1s in those situations. To be fair, he's probably a better front foot defender when pushing out and making interceptions, but when he pushes out the back line and the ball goes past him, he's certainly not quicker on the recovery. Inside of the box, I don't think you can say he has better defensive instincts than Branthwaite. I think Branthwaite's superior in that area, and he's certainly better aerially and physically. I rated Martinez, but now that you think about it, if he was English and hadn't been signed for £50 million by Ten Hag, with the reputation of being one of the best progressive ball-playing centre-backs in all of Europe, and also hadn't had a whole season out last year where people lauded his absence for the sole reason of our downfall like he was prime Cannavaro, which in the end turned out to be completely overstated as it made zero difference to the defence when he came back this season. If you factor all that out and just look purely on his performance this season, if that was Harry Maguire, he'd be called shit by most of the fan base. It's just the theory of Martinez as a ball-playing centre-back which is better than the actual reality. I mean, even if you don't think Lisandro Martinez is that bad, you have to admit there are far better options on the market that United could get for around the same price that we could probably sell Martinez for.